Dylan Sampson's explosive big playability has a lot of fantasy managers very excited to take him in their rookie drafts, but we have some question marks. We have some digging that we need to do to figure out what the right spot in your rookie drafts is to take the running back out of Tennessee. To do that, we're going to get into his tape. We're going to get into his stat profile here, and we're going to churn out some actionable fantasy football advice for you. John, this running back, we find ourselves pretty in step with. He's right there, not at the top, certainly not Ashton Genty, not in that next tier down, but he's right in that next group.
When I teach writing, I always talk about putting their writing into context to my students. And I think to understand Dylan Sampson, we really have to place him in context of the Josh Heupel offensive scheme. If you've watched as much Volunteers football as Matt and I have, you will notice that Tennessee has wide splits on the offensive line, and they love to put their wide receivers as far out possibly on the edges as they can. And by doing this, they just really create a conundrum for defensive coordinators. How are you going to stop the run and deal with all these wide receivers running vertical routes? I mentioned this because our job on today's video is to separate Dylan Sampson from the scheme in which he succeeded in. We have to look at his skills and then think about his production in this scheme of Josh Heupel. In high school, he was a 3-star recruit from Louisiana. He was listed as the number 30 overall running back and number 15 overall prospect in the state. He racked up over 4,900 yards on 521 carries. He's always been an explosive ball player. And another theme throughout his career, he was team captain senior year. He enrolls at Tennessee in June of 2022, Matt. And when he got there, he formed a dynamic trio with Jalen Wright and Jabari Small from 22 to 23 for Tennessee. As a freshman, he got on the field. He had 58 carries for 397 yards and 6 touchdowns, averaging a robust 6.8 yards per carry. As a sophomore, he played more and he started one game in the backfield. This year he had 160 carries. This year he had 106 carries for 604 yards and 7 touchdowns. But Matt, last year he was one of the biggest risers in college football. With Wright and Small moved on, the backfield really became Sampson's, and he surprised a lot of people because Heupel usually uses rotation, but not with Sampson. 258 carries, 1,491 yards, and 22 touchdowns. He had 20 catches for 130 yards. When the dust settled, he was the SEC Offensive Player of the Year, first team All-SEC, and second team All-America. He was a semifinalist for both the Doak Walker and the Maxwell Awards. And what I like about him, he was on the team's leadership council, and very positive reports from teammates and coaches about this young man. One of the things that is interesting, he was clocked at 22 to 23 miles per hour on the field by the catapult system. But when he went to the Tennessee Pro Day, Matt, he ran a 4.46, which isn't bad, but the expectations, there was talk that he was going to run like a 4.35, maybe better tooting in the 40-yard dash. So it's a nice time. It just wasn't what we expected. For his career, he rushed for 2,492 yards on 422 carries. Matt, he is a touchdown machine. He had 35 for the Volunteers, and he averaged 5.9 yards per carry in his career. He had 39 catches for 340 yards and a touchdown. But Matt, we both looked at the film, and you're going to tell us what we have to do and look at to separate the skills from the scheme. What do you say about this young man?
John, as you mentioned here, when we're looking at the film, keep in mind the wide splits that the Tennessee offense uses, and you're going to see Dylan Sampson be really explosive and bursty through those. You're going to see a high motor player, and you're going to see a player that does well as a check down in the. Without further ado here, let's check it out here. We're going to start the Arkansas game. And a good jump step here.
Oh,
And there's that speed, John, that downfield speed, but they do catch up to him. By the way, a 4.46 pro day, that's probably a 4.5 at the combine in that 40-yard dash.
I agree.
But a good high motor runner here. I like his footwork. I like his contact balance. You know, he doesn't run guys over with contact balance, but he finishes forward. You know, he's willing to drop his shoulder, push the pile here. And look at this here. Patient, reads the open field, and then he is able to turn upfield well. So you won't see him necessarily jump off the snap every time, but he does have good bursts through the second level of the field. And I think it's that excitement that's that burst that gets folks excited. He's quick enough to get to the edge. You could see that there, outrun the Arkansas linebacker on that play. And then against the Alabama defender here, he's able to get around the edge. So he's not the fastest, but he's fast enough. He's quick enough, and he's able to finish through on his plays. We're not going to see it here, but I do want to point out he's reliable in pass protection, and I do think that's something an NFL team is going to appreciate. So he can contribute on third down either as a check down option or as a protector for the quarterback. Really good footwork overall, nice jump step and lateral agility. He's a well-rounded wide receiver, but I think it's worth pointing out. Take this, you could use it as a grain of salt or you could take it to heart. As a Tennessee Volunteers fan, I've watched every game he's played. I told folks last year that they were overrating Jalen Wright, and I said that Dylan Sampson was the running back to watch out of the backfield. And when it came time to evaluate Dylan Sampson, I liked him. I like him more than Jalen Wright, but I don't love him still in the way that some folks love him. I think folks who are not familiar with the Tennessee offense are maybe overestimating, how that production comes to fruition. But John, there is no overestimating the positive impact becoming a rookie big board patron has on your dynasty fantasy football rosters. We have rookie rankings, dynasty rankings, Devy rankings, all equivalent. So you can compare a freshman in college and their value to a 10-year NFL pro. We've got one-on-one draft consultation calls. The rookie big board guide is coming out next month with over 100 pages of rookie profiles. We have the Rookie Big Board Discord where you can get personalized advice 365 days a year to help you win your rookie drafts. Folks, if you are learning anything at all new from these videos, if these are helping you, you're watching all the rookie profiles, you are scratching the surface of the type of support you can get for building those championship fantasy football rosters. Whether you're watching or whether you're listening, join us over at patreon.com/rookiebigboard. Save 15% off now with that annual membership. All right, John, the Dylan Sampson tape, it's enticing. I get what folks are excited about, but we've alluded to it here. The stats are probably much more exciting.
Oh, the stats are really exciting, my friend. And one thing we haven't mentioned yet, he's only 20 years of age.
Yeah.
And I was shocked that he came out. He was not on my radar as an early declare. I kind of assumed by late November he was going to go back to Tennessee, but he must have gotten really good reports from the NFL. And they said, yes, young man, come on out. So you do have to project a little bit, right? You have to say to yourself, the NFL thinks that this young man can play right away at the highest level. First, he's only 5'8" and 200 pounds, which I'm glad he's over 200. I was a little concerned that he wouldn't be over that 200-pound threshold. But he's not as fast as Devon Achane. I think A-Chain is just
Oh, yeah.
faster and more quick, right? Sampson's very good, but he's not at that level. But his BMI checks out, Matt, 30.4. He hits my threshold. So this is a good, well-built player to handle a big workload. He had 28% of the volunteer scrimmage yards this year. That's really impressive. His yards of contact per attempt is 3.6. That's very, very good, especially for a back his size. PFF grade, they love him, Matt. They gave him a 90.2. I don't always agree with them, and I think that seems a little high, but the NFL does like and use the PFF grades, and he had 38 runs over 10 yards. I do wonder what his ceiling is. So, Matt, the most important thing always is what should fantasy football dynasty owners know?
Yeah, let's put it all into context and into some actionable advice here to help folks get the most out of their rookie drafts. And when it comes to Dylan Sampson, I expect that our viewers and listeners will see him come off the board just about the middle of the second round of their Superflex rookie draft. So that's 205 to 208. There's definitely going to be individuals in your league that are high on Dylan Sampson. And I don't think you're going to be able to sit much longer than this. He's going to have, I expect, late day 2 draft capital. So that's picks 51 to 102. And that is still really good draft capital. It's a loaded it's a loaded running back class here. And so he could be the 7th running back off the board and still get day 2 draft capital. I don't care if he's the 7th or the 1st or the 15th running back off the board. As long as he's in this draft capital range, that's good draft capital to me. I expect him to fit into a low-end weekly starter. That's the tier he fits in for me. And when I say that, I mean somebody who's going to be a running back 3, a high-end running back 3. So maybe running back, 25 to 28 as a weekly average, but could have some bigger weeks as a running back 2, and some weeks where maybe he's producing a little bit lower than that. In terms of my fantasy football value comparison, I compare him to Jerome Ford in the sense that I think that Sampson's going to step in to a split backfield, but that's okay. Most running backs are in a split backfield in today's NFL. So maybe somewhere between 30 and 35% of the touches on the ground. But as we've seen with Ford, he can be efficient with that workload. And if the running back ahead of him or that he's splitting the backfield with misses time with injury, then you saw Jerome Ford being a weekly high-end running back too. And I think Sampson has that same level of upside and ability. And my recommended exposure is somewhere between 11 and 25%. It's healthy exposure. I want some Dylan Sampson. We've been talking about it. I liked him for a little while. John, you've been talking about how you like him as well. But this isn't a player I'm going to get heavy exposure on. So a little bit of Sampson, not too much Sampson, but there is no such thing as too much rookie big board. And if you're watching all of these rookie profiles, you certainly know that, but you can get even more over at patreon.com/rookie big board. Again, save 15% off, folks, with that annual membership. Now is the absolute perfect time. The draft countdown is on. You want to make sure you have access to those rankings, the Discord, and so much more. Class is going to be in session all draft season long with the FF Educator and the Gridiron Scholar. We're going to be back real soon with another rookie profile.